of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Chistero. Chapter 7. Friends. In one day, Nobby had learned more about what a well-adjusted, reasonable, and helpful parenting style was than he had in the 14 years he'd spent in that house. This is so good! I wish I could fit more of it into my face! The cafe owner, his landlord and employer no less, must have a quirk beside those devil eyes of his. Ew! They're cocoon, close your mouth! For even though that gruff exterior never really changed, he decisively handled the situation where he would have kicked the little nuisance's ass in the next week and banned him from the place besides, in a way that had one child laughing along with some new friends, and the boisterous terror calmly playing a video game. Even the university students had been pressed. Oh, sorry. And now, as 1800 was on the approach, the kids were fed. A few salarymen and women had exhaustedly shuffled in for cakes, drinks, and snacks that even thanked him and complimented him on his service. It felt strangely good. And to think he'd only been rummaging for food and had nearly torched the place through annoyance and boredom. He was really glad that he'd stopped, listened, and accepted what Aizawa had offered him. God only knew why he had them. All right, kids, let's get on with your homework now. Yes, sir! Oh, Aizawa-san, can you help me with my pasta, please? Fractions make me dizzy. Snorting and rolling his eyes, the former Todoroki decided to make himself useful by cleaning off the tables, a yawn leaving him as he walked past the little study group to start wiping the back booth, his eyes momentarily looking through the window at the streets he'd been skulking around for the better part of 2 years. The streets where he'd met Shinso and some of the other women trying to make a living with so few options. The streets where drug dealers and thugs would try to get the better of you. The streets where he'd very nearly had to kill just to stay alive. He didn't relish the thought of ever having to go back there. I never thought of it that way. You're so smart, Aizawa-san. And maybe with a little luck, you wouldn't have to. Now, remember what I said and be a good boy now, all right? At 6, nearly 7, Hitoshi had learned 3 very important things. You'll need to be a good boy, a brave boy for me, okay? The first, his mommy loved him enough that she got hurt to make money and went missing a lot. He seems really nice, and he makes cake. You like cake, don't you? The second, Daddy being killed because a villain wanted his wallet was the worst thing that could have ever happened to them. And there'll be other children there, too, you know? You can make friends. The third, he was going to be spending a lot of time with some guy who ran a cafe while she worked. He wasn't really sure what she did, but it was dangerous and it made her cry. He really wished there was something he could do, but he was only 6, wasn't he? That's why he'd keep trying to be a good boy. That's why he didn't use his quirk. That's why he hid if any strange people came into their apartment. Ah, there it is, see? Blinking out of his thoughts, his tired eyes looked to the brightly lit cafe, his brows rising when he saw the paw prints dotting the red window frames. There were kids inside. They were smiling, laughing, and playing a card game. Now make sure you get something to eat with the yen I've given you, and be sure to wait here until I come to pick you up, all right? Yes, Mom, he replied, his lips trying to smile as she kissed his forehead and began walking in the other direction. He wanted to follow her, but he didn't want to cause her any further trouble, and so, sucking in a breath, be brave, be brave, be brave, he stepped his sneakered feet towards the cafe, with that fringed the small, smelly, graffiti-covered place they'd been forced to live in, his hands pushing the door open with relative ease. The inside of the place was even more cheerful than the outside, and as he stood there, he couldn't help but look up at a black-haired teenager with pretty turquoise eyes and strange markings on his face, and a taller, older man, Aizawa-san, with a wry grin and circles not unlike his under those dark yet compassionate eyes. So cool. Welcome to the Noroneko Cafe, the man said, his voice a low, almost soothing purr. We're gonna get you. When Shinso-san had texted him, it was nearly 1830. He told her that having her boy, Hitoshi, his quirk is Well, just be careful when he asks you questions. I've told him to be good. He is a good boy. Would be no problem, and that he'd happily look after him until 20. Knowing that she was going back out and into the evening had worried him. However, he probably wouldn't be able to pay her the kind of money she needed. This was probably her best option, and that had made him so damn angry. No one should have to do such things that they didn't want to. Hell, he wasn't an idiot. He knew that lots of people found pleasure in sex work and genuinely opted into such a life, but to have to service others in such a way that made him shudder. Oi! Dobby murmured, his shoulder jostling his before he pointed out of the window. You don't want the job then? I guess not, he sighed softly, but that doesn't mean we can't look out for that kid. Whee! Huh? His lodger grinned. I like the sound of that. Just don't expect me to know what to say to him or any of the little snots, alright? We'll make an elementary school teacher out of you yet. He returned fondly, the pair of them leaning on the service bar as the iris-haired boy entered, his little face peering up at them curiously as he greeted them. The child said, his eyes looking at the menu over their heads whilst the children behind the boy had quieted and looked at him, their game of Uno. It had been a present one of his care center compatriots had given him for a Western non-electric game. It had gone down very well. Paused. I only have 1,000 yen, he replied quietly. Well, I figured that'll get you a drink for onigiri of your choice, and a slice of cheesecake. He mused whilst looking at the teenager. Do you think he'd get some yakisoba for that too? Huh? Why not? Younger man shrugged, his eyes rolling. Bankruptcy! I'm calling it now, he said to the room at large before scooting his way towards the kitchen with a long-suffering sigh. Hey, don't sweat it, kid. The man grinned as he rounded the service area and approached him, his right arm then gesturing to the other children, peering at them owlishly. You're Shinso Hitoshi, right? Yes, sir. He nodded a little unsure. Nice to meet you, Hitoshi-san. He returned. I'm Aizawa Shouta, and these are some of my best customers. He granted the tats of preening under the praise of Uraka Ochako, Asue Tsuyu, Midoriya Izuku, and Kaminari Denki. He introduced. I doubt they're playing video games as Bakugo Katsuki. He furthered. I'll introduce you later, alright? Thank you. The boy nodded before, with a blink, Denki was stood right in front of him, his smile wide and his little body definitely in the other child's preferential space. I love your hair, man! He grinned. Tsuchan! Could you scooch over? I'll go sit next to Midoriya-chan. The long-tongued girl grinned, whilst the brunette and forest-haired tot dutifully shuffled over. And poor Izuku couldn't stop blushing from the look of things. Shinso-chan will need the extra room for his food gathering. Then just like that, the tired, haunted, actually got the poor thing. Boy was drawn into the game, the conversation, and happily sharing his mobile phone number with the other kids before offering to share out some of his, wow, that's good, dinner. It was almost perfect. However, as he turned to look past the few different university students who loudly praised him for the Wi-Fi and begged him to shout a loyalty scheme of all things, to where Katsuki was sat alone, he'd seen the boy look over as the Uno game reached fever pitch. He allowed himself a little sigh. He was going to have a long way to go with that one, wasn't he? When closing time came, the kids were collected, the fees paid, and Shinso Kimigo had nearly cried when Hitoshi excitedly told her all about his afternoon and that he'd been offered the chance to join the self-defense class on Sunday. All in all, it had been a great day. He'd also trained Dobby on the tail and started him off on a few online health and safety courses, which he'd begrudgingly done. 100%. And passed with flying color. Clever shit. He huffed when he finished his shower, his eyes staring bewildered at the scores. Maybe you should make me a manager. The younger had smirked. I want a company car, a pay raise, and 54 vacation days. He mused as he lounged in the love-worn computer chair that accompanied the similarly old desk, like he owned the place. Uh-huh. He dip-panned. That does raise the issue of your employment contract, though, doesn't it? We'll need to discuss what hours you want to work, and I'll have to go over taxes with you, won't I? He asked, the towel running over his mostly dry hair as he scratched at his muscle-corded stomach under the oversized white t-shirt he slept in, alongside a pair of black sweatpants. You can't fire me without one, can you?
I can't pay you without one either. He snorted as he leaned against the desk so they could observe each other. However, since you don't want to tell me your name, we're going to have to be a little creative.
He shrugged.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that,
The teen replied, his brows furrowing.
Hey, don't worry about it, he said. You clearly have a good reason for keeping your past to yourself.
He added when turquoise eyes returned to his.
That is not for me to pry, either.
He stated,
If you'd committed any serious crimes, you would have been caught long before now thanks to that quirk detection department the cops have.
He furthered,
So as far as I'm concerned, you're someone who needed a break just like I told you before.
He told him.
Now the offer of talking still stands, but that's completely up to you, alright?
Swallowing thickly and nodding by his side.
Thanks,
he replied quietly.
It's been a long time since I had anywhere to rest and
just be, you know.
Yeah, I know,
Shouta murmured.
I nearly cried when I had an actual bedroom to myself when I was your age.
He added, his eyes closing at the memory.
After having 4 kids all crowding around me for whatever reason and being forced to share futons because the care center manager was a bitch and one of the boys kept wetting the bed, well,
you have to.
Let's just say that I appreciate what it is to be somewhere else.
He grinned whilst nodding around their living area.
As basic as it is, this is mine, and yours for as long as you want it,
he said through a stretch, then he yawned.
You turning in? It's not very, what were the kids saying earlier, plus ultra of me, is it?
He snickered.
But I haven't been for a morning run since we opened, and I don't want to break the habit.
He mused.
That, and I don't tend to sleep well. Or often.
He sighed.
Never have, probably never will. So, best to that I try to get some now.
He hummed.
But don't let that stop you, from doing anything.
He blinked.
If you have friends you want to meet or bring back here to hang out or whatever, then...
Friends! The younger snorted. Yeah, right. He grunted with an eye roll.
I'll hit the hay too, I guess.
He stated whilst getting up.
It's been a while since I got to sleep on a futon, so I'm gonna go and enjoy it,